Right, so today is our introductory lesson. And of course, there is no marks for at this stage. I had asked you to watch the video clips. They were not particularly difficult to sit through. So I hope that you have managed to use that as your starting point. Then I want to say that the other notes that I have given you, I wasn't expecting you to go through all that notes because it is quite a lot, and I think we'll take it in little chunks. Okay. So my starting point today is just looking at the political cartoon. So we know it's a cartoon that makes a point about a political issue or an event. And a political cartoon, you can find it in any daily newspaper. Now, I must just stop there and say that I have told you that our cat focuses on cartoons as the umbrella topic. And it includes the memes and the three panels, the three frames, the editorial, the gags. But I feel that the most access, or the thing that's the easiest, the thing that we can find most access to, is the political cartoon. So it's going to be entirely up to you what you are going to select and what you're going to work with. So if I keep talking about a political cartoon, just remember it's only one of the many forms of cartoons that are available for us. Okay. Right. So as I was saying, you can find these political cartoons. You can find it in the political, on a website, in a news magazine. And the editorial cartoon is usually, it's a graphic. It has that visual with caricatures of public figures. And the political cartoon is expressing the artist's opinion. Now, when I use the word caricature, a caricature simply means that they draw the person, and what do they do? What do they do to the person?
They exaggerate features.
Quite right. They exaggerate certain features. So let's say the guy's he's got slightly big ears or a slightly big nose, then they're going to make it even bigger, right? That's how they make fun of the person. So the person who does the drawing is, of course, the editorial cartoonist, and they combine different skills or different techniques, and that is what I'm going to be looking at in a while. Why do they do this? They want to question authority. They want to draw attention to very specific issues, example, corruption, political violence, and other social ills. And the good thing about your political cartoons is that they've been around since the late 18th century. And the reason why they do so well is because people with even minimal reading abilities can understand and relate to what is put across. And the main idea when we think of, or technique when we think of a political cartoon, is satire. And satire, as you know, is using humor to put across that serious point. So we're going to be looking at the different techniques, the irony, the symbolism, the exaggeration. We're going to look at all of that. But I think for us as our starting point is why do we need the political cartoons? Because the political cartoons force the reader, or maybe not force, maybe that's too strong a word, but they want the reader to apply critical thinking skills to decipher, to analyze, to interpret the cartoonist's meaning and point of view. Now, you know, in my class, I'm always talking about thinking critically. And what do I mean when I say think critically? I'm saying think the issue through for yourself and decide what is your opinion. You see, so that's thinking critically, and that is what the cartoonist is doing. He's highlighting an issue, and he's saying, Asanda, go and think about it and see if you agree. And very often they affect us to the point where they can change how we see, how we view a particular situation. Okay, and I think it's very, very important, the function or the role that they play. But we're going to look at that. I have given you handouts in that. We are also going to be touching on the freedom of speech. We also are going to be touching on hate speech as well. And of course, you know, South Africa is very, very liberal. However, but they do draw a line at hate speech. And what is hate speech, and are these people not very often bordering on hate speech? I must confess, I am not familiar with the Swazi laws, so I don't know if anybody has access to that kind of information, just in terms on freedom of speech and hate speech. I think the only thing that we all know is that we are not allowed to speak negatively about our leadership. Right? Does anybody have any other knowledge that I perhaps don't have? No? Okay. So before I jump into looking at the persuasive techniques that political cartoons use, I want to start off by looking at the elements of political cartoons. Okay. Now I see what's happening is that some of you are in the Zoom meeting, and then as network matters arise, you get cut off. But just to reassure you that I am recording, so this today's talk is I will upload it to YouTube as Cat 2. Okay. So my starting point, and here I'm going to need you to participate with me, is I want to explore the elements of a political cartoon. Before I get to the techniques, just the elements. And when I'm talking about the elements, I'm talking about the use of symbols that are incorporated specifically into the political cartoon. Now, my question to you is, which symbols are you familiar with? Just symbols in general. And I'll give you an example, the golden arches. What symbol is that? Come guys, now you must unmute your mic so that you can talk to me. What are the golden arches?
Ma'am, please give another example.
I don't know what that is, ma'am.
The golden arches. Hi, Bo, children. The golden arches, McDonald's. Aren't those golden arches? The M.
What are golden arches?
Think about the sign
What
of
does that mean?
McDonald's. It's a M.
Oh,
The M. Oh, okay.
Yes,
The M.
but what's the golden arches?
The M.
like
Look at how you form. Look at how you form the M. That color, it's actually not bright yellow. It's actually golden. And it's two arches next door to each other, which forms the M. That is the golden arch.
Wow.
Oh my word, you guys didn't know that? I've just taught you something.
No.
No.
Okay, now you know that's the golden arches. Did you know that each arch represents one McDonald's franchise?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right. Now you know. Now you know. So there are, I forget how many golden arches there are, because they can, you know, like in grade 1 when you learn that bunny jump pattern. Yeah, anyway.
Bunny jump pattern.
Okay, just forget that. It was just a symbol. Another symbol that I'm thinking of, because while I'm waiting on you to come up with just symbols.
Shower head, man.
Guys, I'm not looking at cartoons. I'm just talking in general, symbols. I'm thinking of the Olympic rings. Isn't that a symbol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what does that symbolize?
The Olympics.
Unity, ma'am.
No. I want you to visualize that symbol of the Olympics.
Has different colors.
The
There's
five
different-
continents of the world.
Excellent, Saad. Excellent. There are five rings, and they symbolize the 5 continents.
But there are 7 continents.
North and South America, Africa, Asia, Australia. The last time I checked, that added up to 5 continents.
Ma'am, but you just counted 6 continents.
I counted
No.
5.
North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe,
I didn't count
Australia.
Europe. I didn't count Europe.
Oh, why?
It's all one mass of land. We are digressing.
Oh my word.
I just don't get why the black circle symbolizes Africa. I don't know why specifically.
Okay, let's say the black circle is not us. Although if you think about it, you have the yellow circle, which could be Asia, and the red one could be part of America. No, then what is the blue? Anyway, that's off the point. And then I'm just thinking of more symbols. Think of the Nike logo. That's a worldwide symbol. That's an international symbol as well. So when you see that swoosh, as it's called, did you know it's called a swoosh? When you see that swoosh, you know it's representing Nike sports and sportswear. I'm waiting for you. I've given you 3 symbols. I'm still waiting for 1 symbol from you.
The Adidas logo.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola.
Stripes. Yeah, Coca-Cola.
When I'm talking about a symbol, I'm not talking about a logo. There is a big difference. Okay.
I have one.
Yes, thank you, Margaret.
A torch.
Quite right. That's brilliant. Well done. What does the torch symbolize?
Freedom, ma'am.
In a way, it can symbolize freedom. Quite right. And then there are easy ones, grade 12. You have the dove. The dove can symbolize peace.
Ma'am,
Okay.
can you also say
And the
white-
olive
a
branch.
white
The
flag?
olive branch, quite right. Yes, Natasha?
Like a white flag. Doesn't that symbolize peace?
Not peace, just surrender. Yes. Okay. And so there are many symbols. And you know what one I'm thinking of now is when you see the scales of justice, and it is the weights. So it's got the vertical in the middle, and then on the sides are the 2 scales. Do you know what I'm talking about? The scales of justice.
No, ma'am.
You normally have it at the court. You know, when you buy vegetables, old-fashioned, they would put the weights on the one side, and then they would put the produce on the other side. The scale. Okay, when I'm done, please
Yes,
Google the
ma'am.
scales.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Please Google the
No.
scales of justice. Ooh, children, please.
Ma'am,
Yes.
what about Uncle Sam?
Quite right. Uncle Sam, definitely, because Uncle Sam just represents the US government. Okay. Here's an easy one for you. What about death? How is death? What symbols represent death?
The color black. The color black is one of them.
That's a color, that's not a symbol.
I don't know, man.
What about
The Grim Reaper?
the Grim Reaper is one. What about the skull and crossbones? Come, guys, you know these things. I just need you to be thinking. The skull and crossbones.
Often.
Sometimes. What about a vulture sitting on a branch? That can symbolize approaching death. Are you following me? Guys, are you following
Yes,
me?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I sincerely hope you are. So my next question to you is, can pictures or can images be more powerful than words?
Yes.
I think so.
Just think,
Yes,
the last thing we spoke about now was the symbols for death. Can that symbol for death be more powerful? I think so. I definitely do think so. Because it's so in your face, you know, you don't have to read a lot. You can, it almost shouts at you what the symbol means. Okay. Yes.
Isn't it also what I heard that images like are better than actually like words. Like the mind actually absorbs better information from the
I
about
definitely think so.
60,000 times.
I definitely do agree with that. I definitely do think, and I think it's easier for you to remember the images as well. Oh, you know what image we never mentioned? Not image, what symbol? The dollar sign. Even though it's American currency, we all know we are talking about money when we see the dollar sign. Okay. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I need.
Still here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's all I need. Okay. So now cartoonists use different methods or techniques to get their point across. Now, not every cartoon includes all of these techniques, but most political cartoons include a few. And I think there are 5 main techniques that we need to be familiar with. Okay. And so I want to have a look at those 5. And these are now what I'm calling the persuasive techniques used in cartoons. Okay. And so the first one is the one I've been trying to introduce or remind you of, and that is symbolism. So cartoonists use simple objects to stand for a larger concept or an idea. So, you know, when we start with our visual literacy and there is 3, 4, 5 frames of like a cartoon strip, or what other visual literacy, there's an advert. What do I tell you is your starting point? Don't start reading, start looking at the image. Start describing what it is that you are seeing. It's a girl and she's laying on the ground and her eyes are covered with a cloth, right? You are describing the image that you see. And that's exactly what one needs to do with the cartoon. So when you are describing what you see, you will identify the symbol, and you will know what the symbol stands for. What is the cartoonist's intention? That's our starting point. Okay. The second technique is something we've also touched on, is exaggeration. So sometimes cartoonists overdo the physical characteristics to make a point. When they are highlighting somebody's ears, maybe they are trying to say what? What could they be trying to say, people? Aside from the fact that he doesn't have ears, he's got big ears, what else could they be trying to say?
Maybe
He likes news.
Sorry?
Yeah,
Like
like
story.
wants to spy on a different country. Or
Yes.
the message could be like
Eavesdropping.
trying to spy on another, trying to.
Yeah. Again, there are different ways of interpreting it, and that's why one needs to look at the full cartoon to be able to put it into context. Is it that he's eavesdropping? Is it that he likes stories? Is it that he needs to hear what the people are saying? Okay, so you can't just say it means this and then apply it to every situation. So facial characteristics and clothing are some of the most common characteristics that are exaggerated. Okay, or that are exaggerated. Then the third technique is labeling. So cartoonists often label objects or people to make it clear exactly what they are standing for. Okay, and it's important to make a connection in your mind between the label and the meaning of the object. And I'm going to be posting a few examples that we can work through. I've just had a bit of quite a big problem this morning with the Google Classroom being full, the drive being full, and there wasn't space to upload videos and images. So I'm trying to delete and just create some space, so just please bear with me. So this meeting is going to end, and I've already extended it. It's going to end in 9 minutes, and then I'll see if I can straight away create another meeting after that. So please don't go away and think that your Friday has begun. It has not. The fourth persuasive technique used by cartoonists is called analogy. And analogy, think of it as being, a simile uses like or as, and then your metaphor still compares two things, but it doesn't use like or as. Now the analogy is like the metaphor, but on paper, but with images. Are you get where I'm going?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, ma'am.
So an analogy is a comparison between two unlike things, but they have something in common. Okay. I'll give you an example. Maybe the cartoonist draws a train, and the train is heading for a crash into a big rock. Okay. And then he's got a label on the train, and the label is there where the train's number should be. And it says South African economy. Is it starting to make sense? And then the big rock is international trade. So what is the analogy? The train says that South Africa is going to crash. It's going to be a total disaster because South Africa is not involved in international trade. That's a very lame example, but I think you can see what I'm what I'm trying to say if you can just visualize my image. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So with the analogy, once you understand what the comparison is, then one is straight away able to see what the cartoonist is trying to say, and then you can criticize and see, is he making a valid point? Is there truth in what he is saying? Does it inspire one to start speaking out on social media because we need to prevent the crash from happening? The fifth persuasive technique used in cartoons is irony. And irony is, of course, you say one thing, you mean something else. Irony is the difference between the way things are and the way things should be. And so cartoonists often use irony to express their opinion on an issue. Okay. Now, I have at least maybe 5 little questions that one can ask yourself about the political cartoon. And the first one is, what is the issue in the political cartoon? Now, learners, if you are not watching the news, you need a drop of information about Swazi politics. You need a much larger understanding of what's happening in South Africa. And then you need to have that basic idea of what's happening internationally. But I think since most of our work is because of our close ties with South Africa, our final papers are set in South Africa, one really needs to be quite clued up what is happening. And I've asked you in the past just to watch the news headlines so that you can know. It's pointless, and I've seen this happen, guys. You haven't watched the news, you are sitting in the exam, you have the cartoon in front of you, but you can't even recognize the people being caricatured because you don't know who the main role players are. You only know Zuma because of the shower head. Oh, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm asking you, please, learners, to, when you are having your breaks, just to catch up on the headlines. Okay, so the first question is, under the analysis, is what is the issue in this political cartoon? And the second is, what is the cartoonist's opinion on this issue? Is the first issue about racism? Is the main issue about the economy? Is the issue about corona? And then, what is the cartoonist's opinion? Is he scared for corona, or is he like me and he's thinking, hey, that's a white people's disease, we're gonna be okay. We won't be dying. We can get sick, but we won't die. All right, what is the person's opinion? And then the third question is, what other opinion can someone else have on this issue? What is a different angle or perspective for someone else? So there where I'm saying, and I'm using myself as an example, I'm saying, oh no, man, corona is here. Corona is going to stay here for a very, very long time. But corona is like the flu, and it's only the old people that are affected, the sickly people that are affected. We are fine. And someone else may think that this is a far more serious problem than what I am realizing. So that's a different perspective. Okay. The fourth question that is important is the cartoon persuasive? Does the cartoonist make a very strong case? Either you're going to say, yes, he does, because, you know, the way he's drawn it, or no, it was actually very poor. And I'm thinking of a really good image now. I must actually hunt for it. It was when the ANC started clamping down on the press, and they didn't want the press to report the truth that was happening in South Africa. And quite a few of the ANC politicians were very angry and were trying to come up with laws for the press not to be speaking out. And Shapiro, probably South Africa's best known cartoonist, he drew a cartoon of a woman blindfolded, lying on the ground. Her legs are spread apart, and she's surrounded by men, and they are loosening the zippers on their pants, and the one is standing between his legs, and it is quite clear that a rape is about to happen. But the woman lying on the ground, she had a sash tied across her chest which said South African Press. So you see that labeling, South African Press. And of course, the first person bending down about to rape her has the shower head. So that was a very persuasive cartoon, because it was telling us that the South African government is, in inverted commas, raping the press. They are not allowing them freedom. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So